we're going to have a quick look at the heliocentric fantasist claims that mass attracts mass. We're going to have a quick look at this demonstration, and then we're going to absolutely annihilate it with practical reality. Let's have a quick look.
On each end of the bar we put a lead ball. The two balls balance and the bar is free to turn. Now we put another ball on the left side of each of the two original ones.
Cue the psychedelic magnetic music to get you to believe in this absurdity. Let's have a look.
If everything attracts everything else, the balls should attract each other and the bar should move. There is an attraction of gravity between the lead balls.
Ooh. How do I know you're not turning that above the camera there, my dear man? I don't. But what I do know is what you're showing me there is utter nonsense of the highest order. And I can show you why. Bear with me. And this is how I know that chap was talking utter nonsense. Core, approximately 60 tonne, plus 30 tonne of staging and shuttering. So according to that chap, every time I go next to that core with the crane, there's some attraction, some mass attracting mass. So the block or the load, according to that chap, should be pulled towards the greater mass. Bearing in mind, I've got not only, to the right we've got the earth pulling, according to the globe, but of course to the left you've got the earth pulling plus another 90 tonne. So there should be a greater mass pulling on the crane's load or the crane's block. Right, let's come up here to give you a slightly easier demonstration. We'll pretend this is a building or the core. So according to the claims of the heliocentric fantasists, every time I come down, let's assume my finger's the crane with a load. With a load, let's say that's a 200 tonne building. I'm coming down with a load, say some concrete. They're claiming that mass attracts mass. So according to their fantasy world, every time I do a lift either next to a building or next to a core, there's a pulling force pulling at the crane's load or block to try and get it to attract to each other. Don't you think if that was real, tower crane drivers, every crane driver on earth would need to be taught that? Don't you think that? It's just nonsense of the highest order. Prime example, a library building years ago, I had 6 tonne in a concrete skip. Inside this massive library building, there were students in the windows, at the benches, studying on their computers. I had 6 tonne of concrete. Now, thankfully, the mass attracting mass is utter nonsense, because the 6 tonne of concrete would have gone straight through the windows and destroyed the library building of the university, and probably took out quite a few students as well. Can you see how ridiculous this heliocentric nonsense is? I can assure you, driving cranes, whether it be ped cranes, tower cranes, for the last 20 years, there is no force of mass attracting mass. Otherwise, I would never be able to do a lift next to a building or a big core or anything with a lot of mass, because it would pull me to the building or the core or whatever the great mass is. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Again, the tower crane destroys the heliocentric fantasy. Cheers.